A Million Little Pieces. It's currently in theaters. I know that title very well because this is about an extraordinary, crazy story. Well, tell us how did you hook into Jim Frey?
Well, I read the book when it first came out in 2005, and I just remember loving the way that he wrote it in that free-form style, and I hadn't read anything that had been written that way before, and then, you know, lived through what happened to him and the book and everything.
Quite a story.
Quite a story. And then, but still loved the book and still loved the essence of what that book offered. And I knew it was going to make a good movie because that central character in the book and in the story was such an interesting one, surrounded by such interesting characters. So I kept sort of tracking and seeing where that book was going and who was going to direct it and which studio, and it kind of came and went, and I got jealous of who was going to do it, and then finally it was there on offer.
Did you have to pay Jim?
$1.
$1.
Just one. He said, I don't want money, and I don't want to be involved, and I don't really know what kind of movie you're going to make, but just go ahead and be creative and write it in the spirit of art, which was the way I wrote it.
He's a hell of a writer, isn't he?
Oh, he's a fantastic writer, yeah.
Because that was a great book.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
And then on our show,
Yeah.
he appeared on our show. He was great, talking about the book. Oprah called in, invited him on her show.
Mm-hmm.
It became her featured book of the month.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it all exploded, and she attacked him on the air, did she?
Yes, she did, yeah. And then I think it was about 2 years later where he went back on the show, and it was a makeup show, right? Where they...
Do you have someone playing Oprah?
No, because we don't address the controversy in the movie. We just film it as a story, as the book. So there's nothing about that side of it. That's there for everyone to go and see and watch.
Ultimately, we wanted to tell the story of the young James, you know, trying to fight his addiction and find a community of friends and go, through the road to redemption, really. A sort of story of hope, really. And that was what we wanted to find, that story.
Wasn't it brought out that the book was not true?
It was brought out that there was elements of it that were fabricated and embellished, and that it was a story. But for us, the core truth was James's journey through recovery in the treatment center. And you know, when we took on the rights to the book, it was, you know, it's a big book to then condense down. So a lot of what was embellished was really lost by the wayside anyway, because we're making a movie, not the documentary.
It stands alone as a beautiful story, and when you read the book, there are visual moments that you really want to see brought to life on screen, and it's very visceral, some of his feelings, and because we have an artist, Sam, directing and co-writing, she had very artistic, abstract ways of showing those sort of moments and scenes. So, like Sam said, it kind of became its own identity in a way. That was kind of the beauty of being able to kind of not stick to the book page by page. And over the 2 years that we wrote the script, we had to go through an extensive sense of research. We went to the treatment center that he went to. We spent time with his family, his friends. So, like Sam said, the through line, if you take everything on the wayside, the through line is James Frey was an addict, and today he's 26 years sober. And he went through all the obstacles
What's he doing?
Writing
and producing. He's got a company of books he buys and publishes a lot of books.
Has he seen your film?
Yes. Yeah.
And
he was very moved and overwhelmed and
Emotional
and extremely happy that it finally got made, but got made in kind of the way it was probably always intended to be made. I think, it obviously danced around different studios and probably was going to be a big commercial kind of budget behind a movie like that, like you said, earlier, but this kind of fell into the hands of an artist and independent financing, and we made it on a shoestring budget and kind of pulled everyone together who wanted to be involved with it.
Very anxious to see it.
Yeah.
It's 1 million little pieces, and it's in theaters now.
Yeah.
What was it like being directed by your wife?
It's great. I mean, we have we work well together, and I think Sam's just as a director is a natural, instinctive director who allows for actors to have space to be able to create and experiment, and I think that's always, there's a lot of trust.
The director is the boss, though, is she not?
She
Yeah.
is.
She is
The
indeed.
final product is yours,
Uh-huh.
right? What was it like to direct him?
Well, because we met in that capacity as a director and an actor, it was natural. It feels very natural to work together, and
To tell me what to do.
it feels very natural to tell him what to do. Yeah.
You shot this in 20 days?
We shot this in 20 days.
Shot it in
It was a
20 days.
wild, adrenaline-fueled, but one of the most extremely exciting ways to make
Wow.
movies. Yeah.
I was very lucky to have Billy Bob Thornton and Juliette Lewis.
Billy Bob Thornton is in it?
Yeah. He plays Leonard, and Juliette Lewis and Charlie
Giovanni
Hunnam.
Giovanni Ribisi.
Giovanni
yeah.
Ribisi.
We got very lucky, yeah.
How did you get them?
We showed them the script.
We showed them the script, and we asked them, and we were lucky. They all stepped on immediately and were excited. I mean, Billy Bob really came on and just said, I love independent filmmaking, and this is a great story, and I'm in. But he said, this is the first time I've had to share a trailer with 2 other people in a long time.
Who does he play?
He plays Leonard. So he plays James's mentor, sort of father figure. He becomes his very close friend, and he's sort of the reason James kind of white knuckles it and stays in to the treatment center.
Were you first a photographer, then a director?
Yes, I was first an artist, and my work was photography based, and yeah, then I felt like it was a very natural transition for me to start making movies. So I was
You have
lucky.
to have that eye, right?
Yeah, and I grew up using film, which means when you don't have any money, using film as a photographer, you learn to compose and trust that what you've done is right, which helps you when you're doing independent filmmaking. You've got to move quickly, and you trust your eye and your composition. So being a photographer was good training for me.
You've had an interesting acting career, right? I mean, Godzilla, Kick-Ass, Avengers, Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Was acting a bug to you? Did you catch it early?
Yeah, I started actually really early. I started at the age of 6, and I started in theatre in the West End in London. It was a natural passion. It was my first love. I fell in love with it, and getting older through the years, it kind of helped me. It was my sort of own therapy. It was my escapism, and it allowed me to adapt and change, and I felt more comfortable sort of being other characters.
I have to ask this. What did you make of Martin Scorsese's criticism of Marvel comic movies?
Oh, well, I don't know what he said. What was his criticism?
That they're not movies. They're not the movie industry. I mean, they're the industry, but they're not what
Right.
he wants it to be portrayed.
Right. I guess I can sort of understand what he's saying. Yeah, I think it's definitely of the times is a very superhero-driven sort of generation, the platforms have changed quite a lot. I think with streaming and all sorts of things, and I think Marvel is actually starting to move into like Disney Plus and kind of spread across the board. And there's obviously an audience for it. So I know what Scorsese is trying to say. And see that Irishman is also out, but also on Netflix too. So you're balancing the 2 different platforms.
When the 2 of you first announced your engagement 10 years ago, there was some drama around it at the time. The stigma was you were older, right?
Right.
How much older?
20-something years. 20-ish.
Now, that would be easily accepted today in the opposite. I'm 26 years
Yeah.
older than my wife.
Yeah. How many people ask you about that? Not so many.
Nobody
probably.
cares.
Yeah. People ask
Why
me
do you
all the
think?
time.
Why do they think?
I feel like it's one of the last taboos. I feel like everyone comes at me with it in most interviews, and it's interesting. Because, like you said, I'm sure people don't ask you so often, but they do ask me. It makes people feel like they should have something to say and an opinion on it, but I've never really...
I've never really noticed. I've never really,
noticed.
never knew, noticed an age gap at all. I think we just speak spiritually on a level. I just feel like we've only ever been connected as soulmates, so I've never really noticed.
Were you angry at the critics? And by the way, I think the critics are absurd
About what?
because it's none
Were
of
you
their
angry
business.
at what people were saying?
Oh, I mean, I think you just learn to then, from that point onwards, I just sort of didn't really pay attention to anything that had to be said about, because I don't really care. And I think also, I know that then I'm not following, the rest of the, I'm doing what feels natural to me and instinctive to me. I know that I'm following my own voice, and like, we do it together. So it's never really bothered me, because now it doesn't really...
Who
What's
was
his name?
Taylor and who was Johnson?
Sam was Taylor Wood, and I was Aaron Johnson. That sounds so weird when I say it now. And I wanted to take Sam's full name, and then she said, well, we'll do both.
Are you going to work together again?
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean...
I think we work well together, and it's fun being able to collaborate in that way and to get up and both go to work and see each other at work and then collaborate again. It feels natural. It
I
feels
think
really
it's great.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. I like the feeling, and on other projects I kept thinking, why am I leaving the best actor at home?
Never miss a beat. Subscribe to Larry King now and watch new episodes every day.